Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Welcome to The Ray Taylor Show, where I bring you reviews of the latest movies and TV shows, as well as classic and foreign films. I'm your host, Ray Taylor, and on this podcast, I'll be talking about all things film and television. Whether you're looking for a new show to binge or want to know if that blockbuster is worth the trip to the theater, or just want to hear my thoughts on a classic or foreign film, I've got you covered. So join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for new episodes, and let's dive into the world of film and television together. On today's episode, I am talking about Society of the Snow. Came out last year, 2023, written and directed by J.A. Bayona. Co-written by Bernat Villaplana and Jamie Marquise, as well as Nicholas Casariego, based on a book by Pablo Vierci. This movie has a cast of mostly first-time performers, I believe is what I heard. Not sure if it's just first-time actors in a film. Maybe there's some stage performers, but I think it was a lot of first-time actors in this. And this film is about the flight of a rugby team crashes on a glacier in the Andes. The few passengers who survive the crash find themselves in one of the world's toughest environments to survive. This was a movie, I kind of remember the film Alive from 1993. Anybody remember that one? Same story, so you kind of know aspects of this story, which I remembered, at least enough to know that I've seen it, and what one of the major aspects of the story includes, which, you know, I would say this movie, the related aspect that these movies share in this movie isn't as big of a deal as the overarching survival of these people is. The many things they had to overcome and endure to survive. Those that did survive, anyway. So I had seen that this was coming out on Netflix, and I probably watched a bit of the trailer. And added it, you know, to have it remind me when it came out. And when this came out, I was wasn't. First off, I didn't know how well it was going to be told, right? Because, you know, the first movie, it's crazy. I don't really remember it, but, you know, wasn't sure how this new version of the story would be told. And I heard it was good. I heard good things about it, so I decided to check it out. I mean, it sounded like a movie I would enjoy. I enjoy the survival subgenre of films. And in the end, after watching this, I love this movie far more than I had expected. Visually, it's stunning. The story, heroic. You know, what this rugby team faced in order to just survive is just absolutely overwhelming. But if you like movies, you know, the survival type movies, I think the director's previous film was another survival film in the, it was a Tsunami. But if you like other movies like The Revenant, Gravity, 127 hours, I think it was the amount of time. Or there's a doc that I really love that really reminded me of this called Touching the Void. Then you'll like this movie as well. If you like any of those, or you like the just movie about people trying to survive or a person trying to survive, this is that movie for you. Because I really love this movie. We'll get back to the show after this short message. Are you a true fan of The Ray Taylor Show? Do you crave more content, more insight, more of everything that makes this show great? Then Inspired Disorder Plus is exactly what you need. For only $5 a month, transform your listening and viewing experience into something extraordinary. No more waiting, no more ads. Enjoy the full week of episodes of The Ray Taylor Show in both audio and video formats, completely ad-free. But that is just the beginning. You'll get exclusive early access to the Many Faces series. You can dive into our extensive live painting archive. You can enjoy special deals and discounts that are only available to our members. The perks don't just stop there. Delve into an extensive back catalog of over 14 podcasts with over 618 episodes. Get personal posts from Ray Taylor through his blog. That's my blog. That's me. You can expand your horizons with my creative writing section and participate in an Ask Me Anything section where your questions bring life to our community. Ready to step up your game? Visit inspireddisorder.com/plus and join our exclusive club. It's not just content, it's an experience. See you on the plus side. Now let's get back to the show. This is one of my favorite subgenres of film, right? You meet characters. Those characters are put in an impossible odds after a tragic event, or even a small accident occurs. But then you have these characters are in a situation where they need to find a way to survive, in a situation where survival seems like the least likely outcome. You have movies like Gravity, like I said, where character stranded in space and needs to get back to Earth. Probably one of the most extreme examples of a survival movie. You have the documentary that I mentioned, Touching the Void. Amazing documentary. Highly recommend it. You have these two ice climbers. It's a well-known story. It's is kind of a narrative hybrid movie, Touching the Void. But you have these two ice climbers, one of which falls as they're climbing into a crevice, thought to be dead. And that person is not dead and is trying to survive. The difference in this movie, however, is that it's a large group of people, which changes things. So unlike the other films where you get to know the characters through their journey, because usually, I mean, Gravity is just Sandra Bullock's character. In Touching the Void, it's kind of two characters. But in a lot of these, even in the previous movie by this director that I think had Ewan McGregor in it, is three people. It's like a husband, a wife, and a kid. And I think the wife and kid get separated from the husband. So they're kind of in two separate. But you kind of get to know, you're following those specific people. Whereas in this movie, there's so many people. It's hard to like remember who's who. When people die, I mean, you don't, the deaths, which there are many deaths in this, you don't necessarily feel that pain because you've gotten to know a character. You feel that pain because there's just the vast amount of people that are dying throughout the course of this movie. So it's, it lacks that connection you may have with characters, but I don't really mind that much, I mean, I think that's more due to the only way they could do that was if they put this in like a mini series format and really each episode took time to like focus on a few of the characters. So we don't really get to know any of them. There's a few that stand out, but even then you don't, it's a small amount. Like I said, to turn it into a miniseries, it would make for an epic miniseries. I don't know how they would be able to film. It would have to to also do a miniseries, but then also maintain the quality of filmmaking that this had and locations, which I absolutely loved as well. But this movie is gorgeous. Like I said, locations. Right, they actually film at a location. I don't think they filmed in the actual Andes, but they clearly filmed in snow-covered mountains, which I love that. It's sad that so few movies are actually set in like places. Like everything uses green screen, everything uses the volume. Right? Obviously in this there's the plane crash, which I'm sure there's a lot of CG in that sequence, which is still a mind-blowing sequence, the plane crash. But everything feels like real life, feels like practical effects, like makeup effects. And I like a movie that feels authentic and real versus like watching something that's trying to pass computer animation off as real life. It's noticeable and it pulls me out and I'm tired of it and it's everywhere. Thanks, Disney. Uh, the scale, also the scale of these mountains that they are in, it's just amazing. So many wide shots, so allowing you to just soak it all up. Then there's, a few action-y moments in this that are amazing. Um, you know, the way they're handled just feels so real again. And I love seeing people rise above what they think is impossible. They do what they didn't think they could do. Whether it's a survival movie like this, or even similarly reality shows like America's Got Talent. Uh, Very different situations, but in both, these people are faced with a very stressful moment that they can't escape, right? These moments where to succeed, to survive, I mean, in this, survival is a little bit more literal, but to survive, you have to rise to the occasion, right? Or die, or go the way of the dodo. And it's so inspiring to see those stories where people do the unthinkable, where they rise to the occasion, where they just like humanity is surprised by their abilities. And it's movies like this and shows that like America's Got Talent that I really love. So another reason why I love this movie. And ever since I saw the documentary Touching the Void, that is it's kind of a narrative film in a way. It's like a hybrid storytelling where the reenactments of that, where you have like interviews with the two people the real people, and it cuts to these reenactments that are basically like you're watching this movie here. Very well done. And it's a story that I go and watch when I need like motivation, or if I just need to reframe my own perspective on life, dealing with my own struggles in life. Watching movies like this or watching the documentary Touching the Void, like it really puts life in perspective and really shows like what real hardship and survival is. And that's why I love these kinds of stories, right? They make you take a step back and be thankful for the life you have, the existence you have, thankful that you're at home, comfortable watching a movie and not like on the verge of death constantly. You're not faced with survival. You have something in your refrigerator or pantry that you could eat. You're not down to a buddy that's no longer with you. But these stories can also speak to that part of you that believes that you yourself can do amazing things, right? It taps into that, like, oh man, like they didn't think would be able to survive this thing, and they were wrong, and they were able to do something that they never thought was possible. And for me and for other people, I'm sure it taps into that thing of like, oh, like then I can make things happen for me too. If only you weren't in a rigged system, I could really make. If it was nature instead of capitalism, maybe there'd be a shot. Maybe more luck will go my way. Whereas in capitalism, good luck, unless you're born into wealth. And that's another thing, the luck that goes into surviving these situations. I mean, very unlucky circumstances, but within those circumstances, like all of the people that die in this movie were just unlucky. They didn't make stupid life choices. It wasn't based on their health and fitness regime, right? It's not because they smoked cigarettes or did drugs or had premarital sex. It's just they just happened to be in a place where things made it unsurvivable. And, you know, so much of success in general, whether it's in a situation like this or just in life in general, is based on luck. Things going your way when they need to go your way. Making the right connection at the right time. It's so much of life is random, but random things in life can take you out of the game before the game even starts. But if you're lucky enough to have the best chance, it's the question is, what will you do with that, given that chance, given that luck? How far will you push yourself when everything in life is telling you to give up? You telling you won't make it, telling you won't survive, it's impossible, right? It's movies and stories like this that show crazy things can happen. Unimaginable things. Like if this weren't based on a true story, this movie would be ridiculous. The countless things these people had to overcome, these survivors had to overcome in order to survive. It's just, it wouldn't make for a good movie. It just wouldn't. It'd be torture. Which, I mean, I guess if you're into like the torture porn movies, but the fact that this is based on true events, just, and we get to see all of the things that weren't in the first movie. It's pretty, it's pretty crazy. And it's a very insane story, It's just like every insane journey is just a collection of steps, just merely a collection of every insane story, right? Watching this, the people that survived, it's just a collection of steps that they went through in order to survive. A lot of steps in a journey. Right? And sometimes those steps are literal steps, and then in other steps they're more metaphorical steps that you take on your journey. I mean, that's the thing I love about these, the relatability and the motivation for whether you're somebody like me who's trying to be an artist, a creative, somebody outside of the typical, capitalist system, trying to make and sell your own products, and survive doing that. You have your own steps that you've gone through. Especially if you've been doing it a while, you can kind of reflect on those steps. You can look back and see what those first steps were like when you first started and you didn't know anything, and then you gain experience. And in those moments, it's not about, you don't think about surviving like in this movie. It's like those first moments, they weren't thinking about surviving 71 days, right? It's just about making it through the night, which is brutal, right? It's not about the distance, the total distance from where you are to where it's safe, to where you want to be. It's not about that total distance. It's overwhelming. Thinking about the movie Gravity, from space to Earth, overwhelming distance, insanely overwhelming distance. But when you break it down, it's just putting one foot in front of the other, right? Small wins, getting through the night, getting through the day, right? Doing what you can. Everything can be broken down into just its basic parts, and you're forced to break down in these moments. Right? So in these moments of survival, you're breaking down life to its smallest parts. Food, water, sleep, hopefully. Warmth, hopefully. Right? I need to get from where I am to that point right there. What's over right there? Right? Like not I need to get to the next country over. I need to just get from point A to point B. Right? I'm going to take 10 steps, and then I'm going to rest. because that's all I can do is 10 steps. But after I rest, I'm going to do another 10 steps, and I'm going to get to that point. And you just keep continuing. And that's the journey. That's the journey in movies like this. That's the journey in life, whether they're literal or metaphorical steps. Make small goals. I'm going to get from here to there and rest. And then just keep going and just don't stop. And that's what I love about these movies, right? They show you how small and insignificant you are to the world. And sometimes you're all that stands between death and survive. Like in these survival, like the only difference is like it's just you. There's not there's not systems in place that are keeping you from survival. It's just you versus, nature, obviously, but it's just your will to try and survive. Right? There's only one way to guarantee an outcome. Right? And that's when you quit. You can guarantee failure by quitting. It's the only thing you can ever guarantee, and that's the action you can take. You can try and fail, right? But that's not guaranteed, because sometimes when you try, you can succeed. But the only way to guarantee anything in life is to guarantee failure when you quit. So as long as you're not quitting, and you're putting one foot in front of the other, literally or metaphorically, you have no idea what you can survive because you've never done it before. Let's take a brief intermission from the show. Imagine, dear listeners, a piece of art that does more than just decorate a wall. Visualize owning a limited edition print from The Many Faces, a series that melds the beauty of the abstract and the allure of the surreal. Each print is a conversation piece, a slice of artistic wonder in your own home. But what really elevates these prints, they come with my personal signature and unique number, making their authenticity and exclusivity a must. And guess what? Indulging in this art won't empty your wallet. Starting from just $5 for a 4x6-inch print are designed to be accessible, fitting both your space and your budget. To art enthusiasts, collectors, or anyone who cherishes one-of-a-kind pieces, this is your moment. Transform your living space with a touch of artistic elegance. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com to select your exclusive limited edition prints today. And now let's return to the show with that extra bit of inspiration. But I do want to talk about spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled about this film, I would highly recommend checking it out on Netflix and then coming back on over. Society of the Snow. It's on Netflix. It's great. It doesn't feel like it's a real movie. It doesn't feel like made for TV movie. It's a real movie. As Netflix has done in the past, they've done some Best Picture winners. They're capable of it. So spoilers from here on out. So, to start with, the plane crash that happens at the beginning of this movie, we are kind of introduced to these people, and they're all all of these people, so many people getting onto this plane, and then they're on this plane, the turbulence. The crash is absolutely insane. Was not expecting the different camera cuts to base what is almost like a Final Destination kind of death scene. Like, you could almost take the plane crash from this and put it in the a Final Destination reboot movie. And this is how the plane crash goes. And you see, like, it definitely has that vibe. Shot, like, has a layer of professionalism and just really well done in this movie. But just seeing how all of the different people who are unlucky, how they die. Right? Not just the back half of the plane that was torn off, but also like people being sucked out, the moment when the chairs all give away and just sandwiching everybody on the one side of the plane, just absolutely brutal. You're seeing like limbs just like crinkle up and snap and roll into like these rigid legs that just get rolled up in this brutality, being impacted, impaled by random things, just brutal. Also, the scale of this movie is amazing. When you have that one moment where a group of them, kind of the first time they're going away from their base, the crashed plane, they're trying to go up to the peak to see if they can look over the peak and see the other half of the plane. And like halfway up that peak, they look back and they can't see the plane anymore. And they're like, well, not only are rescuers not going to see the plane, they're not seeing the little puny X that we put next to the plane-sized X that looks puny when you get to just halfway up. I mean, I don't know if they were more than halfway, but they weren't all the way to the peak, and they already couldn't see the plane at the bottom of this little ravine. It's like just so like, oh my gosh, this is just going to be rough. This is like the beginning of like after if the plane crash wasn't bad enough, like that was just like, insult to injury and just one of many. You get the talk about them eating people only 7 days in, which 7 days no food, dealing with like the nights that they were dealing in, like just absolutely brutal nights. I don't see how anybody slept. I would just imagine you're up all night, and then maybe you can sleep in the sun. Get some comfort in that. But yeah, when they started bringing people up, I'm like, yeah, we're going to eat people. We're on a glacier. There's not a living thing anywhere near us. There's no plants, vegetations, little critters going around. We're on a big thing of snow and ice on a mountain, not near anything. There's nothing. So yeah, I'm eating people. I'm eating people. Given that's the only food source. And then they're like peeing black, which is, a bummer. Seeing them eating like shoelaces and cigarettes, just like so brutal, right? Just desperate. And then you have the nights that are just absolute hell. And then you have them, like, before they even decide, they start talking about like 7 days in. And then eventually the people are like, I mean, part of the reason why they don't want to do it is like these people, it's not like organ donation, like somebody compared. It's like, it's not like organ donation because these people, you have to give, consent for your organs to be taken when you die. And yes, this is like organ donation. Like their meat is donation. So people start giving their consents. Like if I die, you have consent to eat me. And then when enough people are like okay with it, then they're like, they would have been okay with it too. And slowly you see them kind of trickle out to go see the dead bodies. And they keep it separated, kind of like our modern food system in modern society where, we go to a grocery store and it's beef, right? We don't see the cows being slaughtered and then the butchers cutting it up and then us getting the piece of meat that used to be a cow. We don't see the cow. Like, we are so detached. I mean, we didn't even call it cow. We call it beef, right? And that's what they do with these bodies, right? There's a few guys that are like the butchers, and then everybody else is just pleading ignorance, at least at first. You have the radio scene where they find it and fix it. I love the camera work in this scene where it's like super like dramatic shots, very close up on this dismantled radio as they're trying to put it together, then like following the cable up to see the antenna that they hooked up to it, right? And then even more dramatic when they hear that the search party is over. Like, people freaking out, obviously, but it's so sad to like, they finally get this technology to work to get information from the outside. And it probably wasn't the first thing that they heard, but like they hear that like, oh, we're done looking, Like if they had just never fixed the radio, there would be some bliss in their ignorance of like maybe we're just going to keep having to wait. Who knows where they're at? Maybe it's going to take a while to get here. Who knows? I don't know. Helicopters exist, but I don't know. There's got to be able to find us, but they don't have that. They're like, oh, they're done. Um, then they start searching for more remains, like searching for other pieces of the plane. They want to find batteries. They find a lot more dead people. People got stuck outside at one point when they're going to find these other batteries. They get stuck outside of camp overnight, which absolutely brutal as they're all like huddled together just on this mountain face as night sets in and they're just freezing to I don't understand how they survived these nights. But in the morning, which is was an absolutely beautiful sunrise, this shot of sunrise over these snow-capped mountains, and to see the snow that was covering these guys crack open as if they were like chicken eggs and these chickens were being born. These guys were being born in the morning light, and then sledding down the giant side. That looked like fun. The only thing in this whole entire movie that looked like fun is when they had like the panel from the plane and sledding down that mountain face to go to camp. You have people like the scene where there's one guy pre-chewing food for another guy, and he like touches his teeth, and you see how loose the dude's teeth are. Made my skin crawl. Like that was like, oh my good. Like how are his teeth staying in? They're chewing raw meat and his teeth are staying in. Maybe that's why the other guy was pre-chewing it for him, because his teeth couldn't handle it. Whew. Then on top of all that, right? No more search party, people starving, they got to eat people to survive. Then just like out of nowhere, there's an avalanche that buries them. 2 waves of an avalanche, not even just one wave, 2 waves of an avalanche, and they're buried for 4 days. They're already, like, the amount of things they're surviving through, and they have to be buried alive by, like, multiple waves of an avalanche is just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? This would be the point in the movie where it'd be like, bullshit. Why would they do? They are already eating people. Why would you put avalanches in it? Which is probably why I think the first movie, I don't remember avalanches in Alive. I mean, just the people eating people was the highlight moment of that movie, I remember. But yeah, buried for 4 days. You have these 2 guys hiking the mountains for 14 days to try and get out. These 2 guys that are like, let's just do it. I think one of them was like the team captain. Maybe the other one was a coach or something like that. So they were able to maybe, get each other motivated to push, right? That athletic mentality of pushing past what you think you can do. And I started getting choked up when they finally get out. They send this message, right? And you see the message go through. You see the guy running through this building to deliver the message. And you seeing this message get out to people, I started getting choked up. And then, even more when you see these 2 guys just happy eating hot food. You're seeing the steam coming off the food, right? Those guys were heroes, man. If those guys didn't walk in a direction for 2 weeks, they survived a total of 71 days minus 14. What is that? 50-something days of just surviving. And then they're like, let's walk 57 days maybe. I'm just going to walk 2 weeks in that direction. And hopefully I find something. And of course, like when they find the guy on the horse, it's just like, oh my gosh, they did it. They did it. Like they got as far as they needed to get to make everything happen. Just crazy. And when the press all show up and like this another avalanche, the press avalanche, finding out it was 71 days total, and seeing everybody like when they find out that like they heard on the radio, they're like, "Oh, we found 2 guys have been found. They are alive. There's people that are survivors of this thing." And cut to like everybody trying to like put a comb through their ratty hair, trying to clean up for when they get rescued. Pretty amazing. And then seeing the empty camp after they leave is like almost like another death in some ways. Like, aside from the human people, their camp was a major character of this movie, right? That what was left of the plane fuselage, their home, was like the thing that gave them even the smallest of chances of survival. And they all leave it, and it's just like this moment of this camp, which is something that is also emotional when I watch shows, these survival reality TV shows, which I love as well. Like Alone is a really good one. And after a person goes home, you see their camp being like kind of dismantled in this like montage, in this like slideshow. And it's sad because they spend so much time, like they put so much life into this home, and now they leave it, and to see the home just kind of dissolve when the life is taken out of it, it's weird how things like that will be emotional. This thing that provided shelter for these people in a very, very dangerous time. But yeah. I love also the voiceover narration from one of the people that, is unreliable because they were one of the dead people, especially in the end when he's talking about how they were dead just like us, right? Like the narrator is dead. And he's like, these people that survived, they were dead like us. They just got to leave and live again, right? They were all dead. All those people at that camp were dead already. But because of this event, they were allowed to live again. And to have that line delivered from somebody who's dead is like, it provides an interesting perspective for the narration, I think. And I was hoping for, which there may have been, but I was hoping for, considering this is not only a true story, but there's a character in this that was taking pictures throughout. I was hoping for pictures of the real people. And I think there were some, but a lot of the pictures that they show were just moments from the movie. They were like literally just the same actors and stuff. And then I think some of them were the actual people. Like I think one of the shots of one of the guys who was like lounging on all of the pile of suitcases. I think when we see that picture at the very end, it's of the real person. But yeah, I was hoping for more of that, but because that's always a great moment in a movie based on real life when you see the people and you see like the casting, see how closely they look like each other, or just to see what the real situation was like. But regardless, great movie, well-crafted film in every way. The direction, cinematography, the acting, the writing, the casting was great. I just only wish it was a miniseries. Somehow they could have made this a miniseries that would, so we get to know the characters a little bit more. But a great film in the survival subgenre. Nonetheless, I really enjoyed it. Society of the Snow. I want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode of The Ray Taylor Show, and I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Society of the Snow. Don't forget to tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for more movie and TV show reviews, and join the conversation by leaving a comment or rating on your favorite podcast platform or over on youtube.com/inspireddisorder, where all these podcasts episodes are available in video format where you can watch me. Until next time, enjoy the show. Subscribe to The Ray Taylor Show on YouTube and everywhere podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Purchase Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out.
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.